Are Black parents, or any parents for that matter, stifling their children's growth when they don't allow their children to connect socially with peers? Or are they causing their children further harm when they give them way too much social freedom? Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones, and I definitely would like to have a conversation about it. And I've had posts similar to this before, but this is a topic of conversation. There are a lot of people that listen to me or watch me that have the experience of being the black sheep versus the golden child. And I want to talk about a dynamic that I know particularly all too well that occurs in Black families. And I think it's one of the main reasons that grown Black men and women are so disconnected today. I think it's a phenomenon. It's a psychologically abusive phenomenon that's causing Black men and women, as they become older, to have the inability to connect. And so this phenomenon that occurs is with young Black girls, there is a particular emphasis, I don't want you to date, I don't want you to go out, all I want you to do is focus on school, academia, academia, academia. Or you do school, you go to college, you get a job, but I don't want you focused on dating. And then somehow when you're in your 20s, 30s, or whatever, everyone's suddenly asking you, hey, when are you going to get married? When your parents have never allowed you to go out and have the experience to learn how to vet, especially when all of your other friends are doing it in school. You don't get that experience to learn how to go out and vet a partner, learn to get the experiences of boys, learn what you like versus what you don't like, get to explore yourself through the act of dating. However, there are a lot of women and girls who have brothers or maybe even older siblings that may be of the same sex that were given complete freedom, complete free range to go out and date, maybe actually given permission to even have sex and things like that. So there was a lot of freedom, and it was more like boys will be boys, or they support that person, being wild, being free, and there was really no emphasis on academia. You can literally grow up in the same family and have, all of you can have completely different experiences with your parents and have completely different childhoods. And I know that that's a phenomenon that is particularly, it happens a lot in abusive families. I'm here to tell you that I think that experience is psychologically abusive. I think when you don't have, first of all, when you have children and you're oppressing them, you want them to be seen but not heard, right? So you don't want them to focus on becoming an individual. You want them to become a compliant, overachiever, successful academic. I'm not saying that that's not based out of trauma. What I am saying is that you could still have trauma, but trauma can still also be very much, trauma-based behavior can and often is very abusive psychologically, and it stuns a woman's emotional growth. And I feel like that's those parallels in what we're seeing. And when young girls are stunted socially and they're not allowed to explore, there's not a balance between academia and doing school and all of that, as well as doing the social exploration, there is a stunting of emotional and psychological and social growth, and in terms of real world experiences and getting out there. And I feel like that's why you see, when we look at the Black community and we see these highly successful, overachieving, beautiful Black women, and you kind of see them with a partner that is a playboy, not as intelligent, not really having anything going on besides being a public figure, or in many cases, the fact that they're a public figure is for the simple fact that they are connected to her, or these bad boys that are constantly getting into legal trouble. It is because I think black women have been conditioned and primed both at home and both through the media to be a wife, to go out and collect the paycheck and do all the things and have order and be the responsible one. And not only are they conditioned to be the responsible one, but they're often conditioned to, prop a man up, to build a man up, be a ride or die, right? And I think that is the one thing, I think that is so crippling to African American women. On the flip side, I think when you have black boys that are given free range and there's not a lot of heavy focus on academia and things like that, but you're just allowed to play video games, you're allowed to dance, you're allowed to entertain, but you're allowed to sort of run and have all of this freedom. I think that's also crippling them, and we're seeing the effects of that by the reports and the studies done on there's not a whole lot of black men that are getting secondary level education. So they're not going to college, they're not getting advanced level degrees. And also you may have people that are the more pipeline to prison. You have people that don't really value the sanctity of marriage because they're allowed to sort of do whatever it is that they want, and they were never really given rules or structure. And that, if there's no rules, there's no structure, and there's all this freedom, what do you think that translates to when someone becomes older, right? You have people that are ladies' man despite the fact that they're in a relationship. You have people that don't believe in marriage, or you have multiple child's mothers and multiple children. You have all of these things, but there's not a lot of structure, there's not a lot of stability. And I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but I'm saying that this is a lot of experiences for a lot of black people. And I do think that this is an intentional, I think abuse is always intentional. I don't know if people think about it, I think it's intentional because I think abuse, one, is always intentional, so people always know what they're doing. But I also think it's intentional when you have such differences between the way children are treated, the way children are disciplined, the expectations that you have for your children, when you have favorites versus children that you despise, all within the same family, and you all have the same parents. I think there is a bit of there's a bit of neglect there, but it's also abuse, and I also think it's intentional, and I think it has long-term consequences in the black community, some of which we're even seeing today. I think a lot of it has to do with what we're seeing today in terms of marriages, in terms of relationships, and so on and so forth. Just the new trends for how that's going. When you look at other cultures are primed for marriage. They're primed for family. They're primed for connection and partnership. They're also primed in terms of having support. Again, it's not all, but by and large, when you look at different cultures, there are some differences, and there's also some similarities, but I do see this a lot more with black families. I'm just curious to know your thoughts.